Worthy of our praise. And I was blessed as we were worshiping the Lord. My daughter, when she got married, let's go back further than that. When I was in junior high school, I had this girl that I wanted to meet. The only place I knew how to meet her was to go to a dance. And so I went to the dance, and when I got there, my parents had always told me it was wrong to dance. And so when I went there, I walked inside, and the whole time I'm sitting there waiting to see her, I could just see Jesus. Every time the door opened, I thought Jesus had come in. So really, and that's just sort of the concept I had right there, that, I felt really, so I left. She never even saw me, and I never saw her. When my daughter got married, she said, "Dad, would you dance with me?" As a dad and daughter to dance. Now, some of that was pride, I really believe. But I still had in my heart, I didn't feel right about it. But today, I feel like I've been released in a certain way, because as we were singing that song, "I'm Free to Dance," I thought, I could dance for Jesus. I believe if He ever really put it on me, and I want to tell you something, if you ever see me dance, that'll be Jesus, I promise you. But I'm just saying, there was something that witnessed to my heart. I believe that I could, if it was for Jesus, I don't care what I looked like. The only time I ever danced was with my dad. My dad had Parkinson's, and I would pick at him a lot and try to encourage him and stuff. And it was back when I think it was Chubby Checker was doing the twist, like that. And I would do that with my dad. That's about all I know. But anyway, for Jesus, I'd try my best to do whatever. If I just wave my hand and call that a dance. We've been talking about being like Jesus. We talked about last week about love demonstrated, and how we talked about the use of Scripture, how we could do all these different things in the world and in our life, but if we don't have love, it's nothing. And that's true. Love is, because it said in 1 John, it says, God is love. If God is love, that's His nature, and that's the nature we should have, is that kind of love. This morning, I want to talk about, in 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, one verse 5, I'm going to talk about love's discipline. Love's discipline, because I believe love does have a discipline. It has a discipline. What is discipline? Discipline. Controlled behavior resulting from disciplinary training. Self-control. Controlled behavior resulting from disciplinary training. Self-control. 1 Corinthians 13:5, King James. And she's going to have a little different version. We had some trouble with the computer. And I thank Brian very much this morning. He was working as hard as he could to get things set up for us. And he was on the phone with Chris, who is in Dallas, and Chris was on the computer. And a lot of times there's things in the kingdom that go in that people give their lives to and people work for that we never even see, that makes things possible. That's their gift and talent. So sometimes, I'll tell you this while he's not here, Brian, stick your finger in your ears. But sometimes we need to just encourage these people and thank them for what they do. Yeah, I agree. It's a great blessing. Because without them, Turn the PA off. Turn me off. Without them, this is exactly what would happen right there. That's what you'd have. I have to be hollering like this for some of you to hear me because we're a little older, right? Okay, thank you. So praise God for gifts. 1 Corinthians 13, chapter verse 5, it says, it's talking about love. It uses the word charity in the King James, but really the word is love. Love doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. Love. What are the disciplines of love? Here's some disciplines of love. Love disciplines itself not to behave itself unseemly. It disciplines itself. It trains itself. It controls itself. It has to work at it. Now, we're born with a nature that of not controlling. We're born with this carnal nature. But love, and when you get love, when God's love works in your heart, there's something inside you that you want to be like Jesus. You want to do things the way Jesus does them. You want to talk the way Jesus would talk. You want to react the way Jesus would want you to react. And there's a discipline. He says, first of all, he says, love disciplines itself not to behave itself unseemly. Well, what does that mean? What exactly does that mean? Sometimes if you're in the Word and you're reading, and you say, I wonder what that means, find out. Get in and dig and find out what it means, because it may be exactly what you need to hear. It might be something that would give you great encouragement. It might reveal a great truth to you in your heart that you never knew. It actually means love is not rude. Love is not rude. You know, we live in a culture, we live in a society, we live in a world where rude is just common. I mean, we see it every day. You see it on TV. A lot of TV shows, a lot of the things they say is just rude. A lot of the things they do is just rude. A lot of how people react is just rude. We have talk shows that people are just rude to each other, back and forth. And within it, and us being around it, sometimes those things get on us and those things get in us. And before long, we're rude. But I want to tell you something. We don't just catch it. That thing has been put in us. That seed has been put in us. And all it's doing is just watering it and nourishing it. And it's going to come forth. Merle Marcoi of the Wall Street Journal, he calls the time we live the Renaissance of rudeness. The Renaissance of rudeness. Well, let's talk a little bit about rude. Since we know love is not rude, that's not the way we're supposed to be. Let's find out exactly what rude means. In the dictionary, it says rude means offensively blunt. Offensively blunt. When someone says something and they're just blunt and they're offensive to someone, that's rudeness. Offensively blunt. Impolite is rudeness sometimes. The way we act. And we're not polite as we act. We don't have manners when we talk to people. We're crude in what we say, or we're cruel in what we say, or how we say it. Harsh or discordant. The word blunt means abrupt or plain spoken about a manner. Sometimes, we as Christians, we have to be careful how we talk. Because again, we are endeavoring to be like Jesus. And the things we say and how we say things can be offensive to people. And so we need to learn what we should say first of all. There's a lot of things that we could say, but we need to learn what to say and how to say them and when we should say them. But first of all, if we should or shouldn't. But sometimes we don't say things right. We're harsh, or we're abrupt, or we're blunt. It's like when I used to cut meat in the meat market for several years when I worked out in the public in the grocery store, and there's times you would use a knife so much that it would become blunt. And you would take and try to cut a piece of meat, and I want to tell you, when you got through cutting that piece of meat, it looked like you had an axe and just chopped it. Because it wasn't sharp and it wasn't clean with its cut. And it's saying, it's doing the same thing. Sometimes we have words, it's just like we have an axe and we're just chopping people up with what we're saying. Blunt, harsh, grated, or rough in senses, raspy. The word discordant that was being used was contradictory, inconsistent, quarrelsome. Sometimes we're rude because of how we just, there's something within inside us. Somebody says yes, we say no. Somebody says blue, we say red. It's just like that we have this thing within us. We like what we feel. When somebody says something and it's just not quite right, then that's our opportunity to get in there and mix it up just a little bit and say, what probably doesn't need to be even said and talked about. The Greek phrase here for this is, it means this. It's translated this way. It says, does not act unbecomingly. Does not act inappropriately. It applies to how we speak. It applies to how we treat each other. It applies to how we act in the public. And it applies to how we act privately, one-on-one. There's no exception. It's really how we act, period. Rude actually means what you're doing when you're rude. You're dishonoring someone. Dishonoring someone. That is what rude does. And I want to tell you something. In relationships and Christianity, ministry, the kingdom is all about relationships. That's what it's all about. If you can't have relationships with people, you can't do what God wants you to do in involvement with helping people and people leading people to the Lord and encouraging people and being a servant to people. Honor. Honor says this. It says, you matter to me. That's what it says. You matter. Do we give off an impression of people? You matter to me. You matter to me. You're important to me. You're valuable to me. You're valuable to me. Rude says just the opposite. I really don't care what you think. Do we give that impression sometimes? I really don't care what you think because it really doesn't matter to me. And it doesn't matter how I treat you or what I have to say. You see, rudeness kills relationships and damages our testimony as a Christian. Rudeness destroys, we need to hear this, rudeness destroys the respect as a Christian that people have for us. It destroys their image of what Christianity is to a degree. A person that is rude, maybe, I think sometimes we just beat around the bush about things we say and things we preach or things we try to teach. And it's hard sometimes we go hoe around the corn. Sometimes you got to hoe real close to the corn to be able to help that corn to be able to grow. This morning, I'm going to throw out some ways we might can identify rudeness. You ever see somebody say something, but somebody go, rude, rude. You ever talking to someone and all of a sudden they just jump right in and you wonder, rude, rude. You say, Pastor Doyce, what's this? Because God. You say, how does this have to do? What does this have to do with love? I want to tell you something. If you love people, you care about people. You care what they think. You care where they are. You care what they feel. If you're living for God, you want them to see Jesus in you. You want them to feel not rudeness. Jesus is not rude. God is not rude. A rude person will say hurtful things. A rude person will flash a look or have a tone or a divisive act that they don't really care. A rude person's attitude is, you made me mad, you upset me. You deserve the way I respond. Rudeness. A rude person will shoot off a hateful email. Boy, we're getting close to the corn now, huh? Or a text. Or these underlying comments in Facebook. Rudeness will. I could say something there, but I'm not. A rude person doesn't care how you feel. They only care about how they feel. They don't care. I don't care how you feel. I'm just going to say what I want to say. I'm just going to do what I want to do. A rude person does not show respect for the opinions of others. A rude person. A rude person's very opinionated themselves. And they don't think. You see, we're talking about love. It says love is not. So if we're really loving like Jesus, if we want this agape love, these are some things that we're going to have to discipline in our life and watch for, because rudeness has a negative effect. Love has good manners and actions in its word. Love is proper at all times and in every relationship of life. It doesn't use bad language or vulgar jokes, rudeness. It doesn't do anything downgrading or anything that doesn't reflect the Christian lifestyle. It shows respect to parents. It shows respect to parents. It shows respect to authority, love does. Love does. It shows respect to those that we love. We can't love and not show that. To a rude person, what everyone else is doing is just frivolous to them because they're so self-oriented. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I want what I'm doing to be what stands out. A rude person communicates to others this right here. It's not about you. It's about me. It's not about you. It's about me. Love, by contrast, cannot be selfish. Love can't be selfish. Why? Simply because love is more concerned about people and the well-being of people. It says, love is gentle. Love is gentle. Everywhere rude goes, it leaves behind damage. It leaves people hurt or people offended or people uneasy or people crushed. Rude. Rude. Well, Pastor Doyce, I didn't know rude had that such great effect. 1 Peter 3:15 says, "But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect." With gentleness and respect. William Barclay, one of the commentaries I read by, he translates this passage that we just read this way. He says, "Love does not behave gracelessly." What's grace? Grace, when you have grace is like unmerited favor. You don't deserve it. It's having grace on you. Love is gracious and never rude. And it isn't just a matter of or whether or not you're rude to a believer. It's not what it's talking about, but it's talking even about a non-believer. You're not rude to a non-believer. Yesterday afternoon, I went to see Jerry Ordorn, who is in Willis Knighton North. I had understood that he was in Willis in the progressive care. So I went there. And I went to the place beside it. And I was going all over. I thought, well, I don't know where to go. So I went right back to progressive care. And as I was pulling out after they had told me where it was at, I pulled out of progressive care. And when I did, I looked back and a motorcycle just shot real fast around me. And he sort of waved at me with one finger, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And so, inside me, there was something that I wanted to. And when he went by, he was saying all kinds of stuff. He even slowed down. I thought, whoa, I'm going to have to run. No. You think I'm kidding? No. But he slowed down. I thought, well, something's going to happen here. And I just sort of nodded at him and smiled. And it's like he looked at me sort of funny. And he drove on off. There's times that we are treated a certain way, but we have to learn, even though people don't treat us right, we're still not rude to them. We're still not rude to them. True agape love is not made rude by rude. In other words, what we're just saying now is if you're treated rude, agape love doesn't get rude with them. But there's something inside us, like I was talking about with this guy, that you want to have a tendency to say, Jesus loves you, but I don't. Yeah, that's what you feel. But love inside you opens up the door and you see their heart and you realize, hey, this is a dude, man. He's got this and he's got all these kind of things, fiery things coming out of his leather jacket and that has this name across it. You don't know what it means. And I didn't want to find out. Love is not controlled by rudeness. Love disciplines itself to control rudeness through love. Maybe we need to get that. Love is not controlled by rudeness. Love disciplines itself to control rudeness through love. Jesus was hung on the cross. He loved the people that hung him on the cross. He even said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He loved them. He expressed love. He showed Stephen, as he's being stoned, he expressed love, not rudeness. He didn't fight back. I'm learning that, a lot of the things I used to have to fight for inside and in situations with people, you don't have to fight. You just let Jesus do all your dirty work. You just love people. And it's going to come back around. I'm seeing that in my life in areas. People that it's like it's coming back around. All you have to do is love them. And you know what? You come out on top because you don't have any scars. You don't have to dig all these things out of your heart and struggle with all these things. Okay? Number 2, discipline. Love disciplines itself to seek not her own. In several different versions, one version says, does not insist on its own way. Does not demand its own way. It is not self-seeking. It is not self-serving. It is not always me first. Love disciplines itself to seeketh not its own, her own. To put it in other words, anybody have a word that they might want to use there? Love is not selfish. Love is not selfish. Do you know that in our society in our culture also is that word right there. Our world seems like is getting more selfish and selfish and selfish. It's me, what I can get out. I don't care how it hurts or what happens. Selfish, to exert our own way. Exert our own way. Isaiah 56:11 says, they all turn to their own way. They seek their own gain. And that's what I see today. You see, we bend everything toward us. This selfishness. Everything is bent toward us. It's always has to do with us, with me, or our way, or what we want inside. Proverbs 28:25, the New Good News Testament translation says, selfishness only causes trouble. Selfishness only causes trouble. You see, selfishness in relationships is a poison. And what's so hard is a lot of relationships, marriages, when they come together, what's drawn them together is that selfishness. This person's selfish because he sees what this person can get out of this, and this person is selfish because they see what this person can get out of this. It's never just the opposite of what love is. It's what I can do for this person and what I can do for this person. And there's already a wall built between the two because of selfishness. Love is wanting to do. Love is thinking about the other person. For God so loved himself. For God so loved the world that he gave. He loved the world. The world didn't love him. The world was against him. The world still is his enemy in a certain way. That's why Jesus told his disciples in Matthew 16:24, he said, then said Jesus to his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Because he saw the effect of selfishness. Probably saw it in their life. saw it in the world's light. He was aware of that. And you have to deny that self, that selfishness, that self that's within us. Selfishness is usually it usually has a blind spot. Do you know what a blind spot is? Any of you drive a car, you ever go down and all of a sudden you pull over in this lane, that car goes, you know? It's because that car was in your blind spot. You could not see that car coming. We have selfishness in our life that's in our blind spot. We're blinded to our selfishness. We can't see our selfishness until, bam, it's too late. And it's already crashed and had its effect on people and situations and stuff. Some of the blind spots are jealousy, arrogance, pride. The Bible says God hates pride. It didn't say He dislikes pride. Any of y'all want God to hate you? You want God to get really, really upset with you? He says He hates pride, hates it. For the fear of the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride and arrogance, evil behavior, and perverse speech. That's because God knows that pride is one of the very center things of broken relationships, friendships, divisions in churches, separation in families, child leave mom and dad, pride, so forth. Dad leave mom, children. Mom leave dad, children. You see, I was talking with a minister friend several days ago, and they were talking about someone in their family. And that individual they love very dearly, and it was not a negative thing that we were talking about. We're not gossiping because it just wasn't. But as we were talking, they said, yeah, this person's wondering why they're on their fifth spouse. And I said, well, what did you tell them? He said, well, the only thing I knew to say was, well, the first thing you need to do is look what the common denominator is. What was the one thing in each one of those situations? Himself. Himself. You know, pride is a common denominator in most of our lives. And you get pride here and pride here and pride here and pride here. And I want to, you know what you have? A bunch of prides. A bunch of prides. A proud person will never humble himself. A proud person will never admit that they're wrong. A proud person will not say, it's my fault. I take the blame. Watching a basketball game yesterday. Obvious foul. Not me. Not me. On TV. A proud person will never say, I'm sorry. A proud person always expects the other person to come to them. A proud person wants the other person to humble themselves. Well, they need to just humble themselves. A proud person wants the other person to admit the wrong. A proud person resolutely digs his heels in and stands and makes that other person come to them. A proud person. A proud person will not admit their weaknesses. If that's hard, if it's hard for you to admit your weaknesses, it's good for you to admit your weaknesses. That's when you make a turn, I believe. It's when you get to a place in your life and you admit, I'm weak there. That's when God can help you. Because He says what? What's the scripture say? In your weakness, I'll make you strong. In your weakness. Maybe sometimes we think our strengths are really our strengths, when really our strength is our weakness. If the Lord's in it, and help us, and we'll surrender it to Him. A proud person will not admit that they have made a contribution, not to the church, but to the problem. Well, not me. I'm not the problem here. I'm not the problem here. Pride. To a proud person, it's more important to be right than it is to be restored. Or let me change that word right so you understand what we're saying. It's more important to win than be restored. Proverbs 11:2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with humility comes wisdom. So let me ask you something this morning. Do you have pride in you? Are you slow to confess? Are you slow to make amends? Do you in your pride refuse to make things right or resolve conflict? Do you hold things on people and keep record of things? Do you have certain places? How do you recognize selfishness? By how you talk to people, by how you treat people, by how you show respect to others, the attitude you have toward other people. Selfishness. The third, love is not about me. That's what we were saying there. Love's disciplines itself to be not easily provoked. Love does. It disciplines itself. We have that nature within us to retaliate. But love disciplines itself. Now, there's a number. When you leave here, I want you to remember. Okay? Can you remember this number? It's 2:11. Anybody remember that? Can you remember that? If I ask you next week, what does 2:11 mean? Are you going to be able to tell me? No, because I haven't told you yet. 2:11. You know what? Does anyone know what 2:11? Anybody have a clue? 2:11. Yeah, that's the one. Information. That's good. Well, help. I know. Help. Yeah, help. 2:11 is the point when you heat water up. When you hit 2:11, it's good. But if you go just a little bit over 2:11, what happens? The water boils. That's the point right before you get to the boiling point. You know, a lot of people live right there. There's people that live right there. Their boiling point's right here, and all it takes is just a little all over everybody. That's where they live. That's where they are. Dr. David Ferguson has a book, and I was reading just a little bit of a clip on the internet about what he said. He said all of us have an emotional capacity inside. It's like a cup inside us. Most of the time the cup is about half full. So when crises come into our life, we have a margin before we boil over. But he says a lot of people have an emotional capacity that is full because at the bottom of their cup are some unresolved conflicts, pain, heartaches. It sits there and it simmers at the bottom of the cup. On the top of it is shame and anger and resentment and bitterness. And soon you don't have any room for anything that comes along. Anything wrong that happens or comes your way, it just boils over. What's at the bottom of your cup this morning? What's at the bottom of your cup? What is there that's in there? You see, anger will cause you to say things that you never say. Anger will. It'll cause you to say things that you never would normally say. It'll cause you to do things that you normally never would do. Let me just read here. Moses. Numbers 20. I'm going to be reading from the Message. If she has it up there, it's going to be a little different probably. It says, in the first month, the entire company of the people of Israel arrived in the wilderness of Zin. The people stayed in Kadesh. Miriam died there, and she was buried. There was no water there for the community, so they ganged up on Moses and Aaron and attacked Moses. We wish we had died when the rest of our brothers died before God. Why did you haul this congregation of God out here into the wilderness to die? People and congregation of God out here in this wilderness to die like cattle. And why did you take us out of Egypt in the first place, dragging us into this miserable country? No grain, no figs, no grapevines, no pomegranates, and now not even any water. Moses and Aaron walked from the assembly congregation into the tent of meeting and threw themselves face down on the ground, and they saw the glory of God. God spoke to Moses, take the staff, assemble the community, you and your brother Aaron, speak to the rock that's right in front of them, and it will give water. You will bring water out of the rock for them, congregation, cattle, and both drink. Moses took the staff away from God's presence and commanded. He and Aaron rounded up the whole congregation in front of the rock. Moses spoke, listen, rebels, do you have to bring water out of the rock for you? Do I have to bring the water out of the rock for you? With that, Moses raised his arm and slammed his staff against the rock. Once, twice, and water poured out. Congregation and cattle drank. Okay, now here's the verse. God said to Moses and Aaron, because you didn't trust me, didn't treat me with holy reverence in front of the people of Israel, you two aren't going to lead this company into the land that I am giving them. He didn't tell him to take the staff and hit the rock. He hit it twice. See, he was angry. He was mad. He was in the flesh. He was angry. Anger had control. Who's in control? The Spirit of God or anger? If you let anger take control, sometimes you say things you don't normally say, and you do things you don't normally do. The last thing is thinketh no evil. It means love isn't resentful. Love disciplines itself to keep no record of wrong. It erases wrong, as a matter of fact. That's what love does. It doesn't keep a record. When I was in North Carolina, I had a situation that someone wrote me a letter that was just really... And I had that letter for a long time. I kept it at my desk because I was going to remember. And if I ever saw that guy again, I was going to tell him some things, let him know some things. Yeah. I mean, I was going to try to be nice, but I was going to make my statement to him and let him know. And one day I was teaching on this here. And I read that. Keeps no record of wrong. Guess what? Threw it away. It's like a pastor I know one time was counseling, doing marriage counseling. And he said, his husband told him, he says, you know, every time my wife gets mad, she gets historical. And my friend said, I think you meant hysterical. He said, no, I mean historical, because she starts bringing everything I've done wrong up. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. That word there, the Greek word, actually means thinketh. It literally means to keep a mathematical calculation. It's the same word used in the New Testament to speak of God's pardoning act. Polynesian islands, the natives there used to, what they would do, they would fight with people. They would war with other tribes and stuff. And they would keep something that when they overcome, that would remind them of their enemy. And they would suspend it from the ceiling. So every time they went by, they would not forget about that enemy or what was done wrong to them. You know, as I was thinking about that, we don't have anything like that. Well, maybe like that letter I had in a certain degree. Yeah, that's what that was. But sometimes we have these things that are suspended within our mind or within our heart. And those things come back. They remind us. They remind us. You see, love doesn't keep a scoreboard. That hit me last night as I was watching that game. You know, love doesn't keep score. Love doesn't keep score. To love wants everybody to be a winner. You see, love disciplines itself to quickly forgive and look past the person's sin to see his potential. Love is discipline to hesitate or even refuse to believe a rumor. Love disciplines itself not to allow resentment to lie in its heart. Love's discipline refuses to insult or hurt. Love's discipline keeps no record of wrong. It erases it. In conclusion, Matthew 5:20, for I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. You see, the scribes and the Pharisees lived by the rule of the law. Yet they refused to live by the two greatest commandments. What were they? Luke 10:27, he answered and said, love your Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind. And then he happened to just accidentally throw this one in. Love your neighbor as yourself. And then in Matthew, I believe it is, along the 5th chapter, he even tells us we're to love our enemy. He even goes beyond that. This morning, if you would stand, we're going to give you an opportunity to maybe come pray. Maybe there's something that has been embedded within your heart, within your mind, and it's time to dump it. It's time to get rid of it. It's time to quit hanging it up. Maybe because of that, you've been rude, or you've said things, or you've done things, and God showed you that, hey, that's not the way it's supposed to be. And you'd like to come pray. We invite you to come right now as we sing.